Good afternoon and welcome back to Gib84 Gaming. This is going to be a VR to heaps of games, and this is a VR to his most recent video, which was his honest thoughts of God of War Ragnarok. Over here. So I finished this game just last night and I was absolutely blown away. Absolutely loved it. But a little bit of history first on the reason for the VR. So this is not a VR to this is not a VR to call out heaps of games. This is not a VR to diss him in any way, and he knows that. And I have spoke to him about it, and we do chat quite a bit. And he has a channel that I've followed a lot, and I do enjoy being part of his kind of chat and his live streams. I followed him for a long time, so it's not, I'm not jumping on his channel. I'm not jumping on this VR as leverage for my channel or anything like that. Like, I genuinely do have a friendship with heaps, and I do respect everything that he says. But when he released his video and just some things that he kind of brought up, again, I just wanted to counter it, because I can imagine, like, if I did know heaps and if I was like having a pint with him or something like that, then I think we could have a good conversation and a good healthy debate. There's no toxicity at all in this video. There's no hate. There's nothing like that. This is just a genuine VR to his opinions and then to counter his opinions. And yeah, it's nothing. No, it's not malicious at all or anything like that. It's just a straightforward VR. No hate at all. Love heaps, absolutely great channel. And I'll put a link in the description so you can go and see his thoughts, and then so you should go and watch that first, and then you can listen to me drone on about my thoughts in the game and my counter arguments. So I watched this video last night, and then I've watched it again like 5 or 6 times just to go through it and make sure I've not missed anything, not misinterpreted anything. And I've taken some notes like a good little schoolboy. I watched it like 5 or 6 times and wrote a couple of things down. And yeah, so because it's a VR, I do think it's important that I do kind of counter some of the things that he says, and then kind of elaborate a little bit on how I found it. So again, it's all opinions, and he has his opinions, I have my opinions, you have your opinions, everyone has their opinions, and that's what makes these debates so healthy and worthwhile. I think it's not anything nasty, it's nothing nasty at all. I just have to put that out there. So at the start of his video, near the start of the video, he said that the game was so slow paced and familiar, which I do think is very intentional. I don't think that I don't think that the game wanted to be different. I think it wanted to be very, very similar, very the same tone. Everything was it's a continuation of the first game, and the way the story is delivered is very intentional, and that's the way it's supposed to be. It wasn't meant to be different. It wasn't meant to have different. It wasn't meant to have like vastly different mechanics. It was supposed to be the same game. It was supposed to be the same Kratos. It was supposed to be an evolving Atreus. Another thing that he did touch on was the dialogue was overly done. He felt like he didn't like Atreus talking all the time. But and then this where I do have another different opinion is, I feel like if the dialogue was toned down, or if the dialogue was gone, I think it would have been a completely different game. I think it would have been a bit empty and soulless. I think one of the parts that I really liked about the God of War game and God of War Ragnarok is the interaction between all the characters, and especially when you're playing the game and you're playing the levels. I love how Mimir talks to you throughout it. I love how Atreus talks to you throughout it. I just love the interaction that it doesn't let up. It just keeps on going. And even if you think there's a wee bit of a slog, sometimes if you're going through somewhere, or you're going through a cave, or you're sailing down the lake, I think the addition of the dialogue is just perfect. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and it keeps you immersed in the game. They even start talking about things that are not particularly in the game, but they talk about the myths and the legends of the Norse mythology, and I just think it's brilliant, and it keeps you in the game. It keeps you immersed and involved. Another part that he did mention was how he just that he wanted to play as Kratos and be this badass, and which is why you play a God of War game, I guess, as well. But in the spirit of the game, in the spirit of Kratos, and the spirit of where they're taking God of War, is that Kratos is done. Kratos is done with it all. He wanted a new life. He doesn't want to be this big badass. He will be, because it's his nature. It's not his form, it's his nature. His nature is to kill gods, is to take no shit. He just is what he is. I'm not really good at this and doing scripts and things like that, but I just wanted to kind of put this out there as well. But yeah, I can remember as well, I tried to stay away from all things God of War, Ragnarok, before I got the game, because I didn't want anything spoiled, because I love the first game, and I hate spoilers. I hate seeing anything that would take away from me, take away from my experience. But I did watch an interview before the game came out, and the director was talking about how he was talking to Cory Barlog on were they going to make this into a trilogy, but then they decided to only do 2 games. And that to me is quite important as well, because I think they've learned from their past with God of War. I think the God of War formula back in the PS2 and into the PS3, it really became stale, and they'd done everything they could with it, and I don't think they wanted to make the same mistake again. I think they wanted to finish it the way it was, or the way it is, but leave it open as well. Like, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not putting any spoilers in here at all, but I think they had learned from the mistakes from God of War 1, 2, and then PSP games, and then 3, and then Ascension. I think they didn't want to drag everything out so much, but they didn't want to close the doors either. So I think they learned from that, and I'm kind of getting lost now. I need to think about this. I'm going to start this again. Fuck. I need to start it again. Sorry, I got a wee bit lost with what I was trying to say there, and like I said, I don't really script things, and I just kind of like shoot a video, so I was getting a wee bit lost. So just to continue on from playing as Kratos and the combat being familiar, playing it safe and directly ripping like animations from the first game. Again, I just feel like that like there was never any intentions to change anything. I think that it is a continuation of the first game. It's the second part of the first game, and nothing was ever going to be changed. Nothing was ever going to be radically changed anyway. There was still going to be the same enemies. There was still going to be the same characters, almost the same world. Like, there is new realms and things like that. But yeah, the whole delivery of the game is a continuation. That it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be any different, in a sense. Another point was made about the the delivery and the pacing, you felt it was bloated, and the linear points were bloated. Again, I would disagree with this as well, because in my opinion, my advice to play God of War Ragnarok would be to go through the story, and there's loads of different side missions, and you can go back to them. You can go back to them at the end of the game, which adds to the kind of replayability of it and the pull to go back to the game. But my advice definitely would be just go straight for the story missions, go straight through the game. Let the developers and the story writers, let them tell their story, let them just really become immersed in it, and just let them lead you through this epic story. It's absolutely amazing. Something else I've read, like on Twitter and things like that, I've read some people were saying about the kind of puzzle heavy nature of the game as well, and then they didn't like how once you came to a puzzle and you didn't get it straight away, then one of your allies would give you some hints towards doing the puzzle. And some people didn't like that, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's an option in the accessibility, which there's loads of accessibility options in the game, and I'm sure within there you can turn that off. But again, back to the point of the linear nature of it, and like I love that. I love how the story, the director, the storytellers, I love how they want you to get through the game, and if you're stuck there for like 5 minutes, then they've purposely put in there for Atreus to say something like, let's look at it from another angle, or let's try this, or why don't you freeze a certain thing, or something like that. That's just the way of the directors pushing you through the story so they can tell their story and get you through the game. I love that. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I'm there I play the game to see the story through and be involved in the epic conclusion of the game. Like, I just think it's absolutely amazing. And I don't really know what else to say in terms of a VR to heaps, but for me personally, like, I loved the first game. When I played the first game, it really blew me away. And just like this one, I think it's the camera perspective, like, where it doesn't leave your character, whoever it is you're controlling at the time. It doesn't leave that person. It follows them all the way through, a one shot, and it's absolutely incredible. And I think that really draws you in, and that keeps you going. I played through this in 1 week, I think it was. So every time I finished work, I would come home and I'd play 2 or 3 hours a night or something, give or take. And it was just incredible. Like, I was so excited to get home from work and just sit down and play it. And every kind of 3-hour session I'd have, I never had a 3-hour session where I felt like, oh, I can't be arsed with this. I just want it to be like, I never ever felt that. I felt like it was binge watching like a Netflix series. Every night I finished work, I came home, I put it on, and I was in it. I was ready for the next part. I was ready to go to this next realm. I was ready to go and do such a thing. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil any parts, but for me, like, my whole experience with it was absolutely brilliant. I was enthralled by it. I didn't want it to end. I never wanted it to end. But obviously, everything has to end at some point. But again, the end, you can go back to it once you're finished and go through all the different little side missions and stories and favours, as they're called in the game. And those favours, those side missions, are so expertly done as well. Like, each favour is like its own story, and it's just brilliant. Like, the direction's so good, and the voice acting, the performances are amazing. Like, they're so good. And for me, the God of War and then God of War Ragnarok, these games really kind of transcend gaming for me. I just felt like it was more than a game. Sorry, one more point I wanted to kind of touch on was when, so Heaps did mention as well that he felt that some parts were bloated, and like certain parts were a little bit bloated because you would go through, you'd fight enemies, you would get to a boss, you'd fight the boss, and it would just be bloated, and he just felt that it was a bit too much. But again, I would argue that is a video game, that is gaming in every sense of the word. That you have to have a level, you have to have the start, you have to have the middle, you have to fight enemies, you have to get the end boss, and you have to have a conclusion, and that is video gaming. That is video gaming 101. And again, a lot of people I have heard on like Twitter and Facebook and things like that saying it's all too familiar, it's all the same, and yeah, I don't get that argument. I don't buy that argument. I don't think that argument is valid because everything is the same. Like I mean, in the last 10 years, how many Metroidvania games have we had? Not that I do like Metroidvania. I love gaming in general. But when I do read people saying that it's all familiar and samey, and I just think that I think that's a bit of a cop-out of an excuse, because I don't think there's many games out there that are completely unique. And again, this game is a continuation of the first game. I think you could almost look at God of War and God of War Ragnarok as one complete package. But yeah, again, I need to end this on, I'm not hating on Heaps. I'm not dissing him at all. They are his opinions. He's not finished the game yet, I don't believe, so his opinions might change as well towards the end. And again, something that I do need to touch on as well. He does like the game. He's not said the game's bad. He's just gave his honest opinions, and I'm not here to say that his honest opinions are not valid, because they are valid. They're his opinions, and that's the beauty of opinions, and that's the beauty of a healthy debate. In my eyes, when I did first play the first God of War, back 2018, God of War, that fast became my favourite game of all time. And there's a lot of people that may not accept that, but I'm here to tell you that it's alright. It's okay to pick a modern game as your favourite game of all time. When you do see a lot of people's favourite games of all time lists, you'll always get to the top game, number one game, and it will always be something like Super Mario Bros. 3 or Streets of Rage 2, which are all fantastic games. But in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, everyone's got their own opinions, but in my opinion, God of War is the pinnacle of gaming for me. Everything about it was fantastic. You know, when you strip it right back, it does have that blueprint of a video game. It has that blueprint of setting the scene, fighting enemies, fighting an end boss, getting your end of level what I'm trying to say. You get to the end of the level, and then you go to the next level, which is the next part of the game. And it's just fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And I don't know what else to say. That's my VR to Heaps. Again, love Heaps. I'm not dissing him at all. Those are his opinions. Everyone has their opinions, and these are mine. So thanks very much for watching. Cheers.